Hello and welcome to another video of me. This time a little bit different. Usually I just make music, but a while ago I bought this Squarp pyramid sequencer and I would like to do some gear review. So I would like to compare it to the Synthstrom Deluge, which I have been using with a lot of pleasure over the years, and but still I found that I needed something else which would suit my music style, so I bought this Squarp pyramid, and I want to talk about the differences. I won't go over the complete devices because then the video would be way too long, but I will talk about using these instruments as step sequences. So not play and record, but programming and composing music step by step. Okay, let's get started. One word of caution before we start. If you buy a Squarp pyramid, you spend about half the money of a Deluge, but the Squarp pyramid does not have a built-in synthesizer, so it's just a sequencer. So you can only program notes in it, but you still need an instrument. So if you are a beginner or you just want to buy one device, don't buy the Squarp pyramid because it won't work. It does not make music on its own. It needs other devices. Step sequencing notes on Deluge and Squarp pyramid feels very similar because both sequences in the end are piano roll style sequences. In the Squarp pyramid you have this piano roll on a display, and in the Deluge the piano roll is the whole lights on the keyboard, but nevertheless once you get used to the one, you can also quickly learn the other and the other way around. It's not that different. Once you have composed some phrases, you want to toggle phrases on and off to hear how they sound together and maybe live perform with them. This is also fairly similar on the Deluge and the Squarp pyramid. Both devices have a view in which you can toggle tracks on and off, and tracks can also have multiple instances with variations of the same theme, and you can toggle these variations on and off. It's fairly similar on both devices. If you are not a live performer, you want to arrange your phrases into a timeline. Both the Deluge and the pyramid have this feature, but the Deluge timeline is quite a lot nicer. It uses the full screen or keyboard again, and each track with all its variations gets one row, and you can scroll through it and put the variations behind each other, and the colors give an indication what is playing, if you can remember what color stood for what, but it's very nice. And the pyramid timeline is quite a bit more basic, but it gets the job done. You have to enter numbered steps numbered sequence steps in a menu, but the menu is not that hard to use, and once you have put them all behind each other, you can play a song just as you can play it on the Deluge. So it's not a deal breaker for me, but in this category the Deluge is definitely the winner. It's just nicer to have this big screen used as a timeline instead of this numbered thing which you have to edit with some menus, although the menus are fairly easy to use and work quickly. What I really like to do in my music is also use some elements of chance to generate some notes and not write them all by hand, but just say I want to play this chord and then generate some notes from it. So on the Deluge you have an arpeggiator per track, but that's it. On the Pyramid you have some really nice options for generative music, because each track can have multiple steps associated, which will change the underlying track. So you can have arpeggiators, but you can also expand one note into a chord or do some random variations like random pitch up, random octave up, random note length changes. It's delightful, and you can also quantize the results back to a specific key. So if you just randomly change the pitch but you want to stay in your key, you can do that. It's really nice. Here you see the screen you get when you want to add a new generator to a track on the Pyramid, and the one called K from scale is that's on the second row. That's the one which quantizes your notes to a scale. On the Deluge your notes are also quantized to a scale, because you can enter only 8 notes, which just happens to be the height of the display. It's 8. You can turn on chromatic mode, and then you can enter all 12 notes, but it makes the Deluge actually quite hard to use, because you have to scroll to see a complete octave, and that is really a weak point from the Deluge, because you can have only one scale for the whole musical piece, whereas on the Pyramid these scale quantizers are per track, so you can and even per track variation, so you can change keys in the middle of your piece and use multiple keys at the same time. And in the Deluge you can only do that in live mode, so you can change the notes from one key to another, but you cannot have a different set of notes for each key. So the Deluge is quite limited when it comes to key modulation, and this was actually my main reason to also buy the Pyramid, because I like to experiment with modulating from key to key, because I'm actually quite inspired by classical music, and it happens very often in classical music, and I find it very limiting if you can just play in one key. Also, these generators of the pyramid are really nice. They are so much fun. I will put a piece of music on the end of this video, and you can hear some generated music, and I made it in just a couple of minutes. And if you program note by note, music writing is a lot of work, and using generators makes it so much quicker. What the Deluge allows you to do, and what the pyramid can do, is add a probability to every single note. So on the pyramid you can add a probability as a step in the transformers, but on the Deluge you can enter it per note, and that is also actually quite a nice technique for generative music. You can also say that a note needs to be played every even time or every odd time or 1 out of 3 times, and that is quite useful to add variations to your tracks. So the Deluge has some generative tricks which the pyramid is missing. I also want to mention that though the pyramid has Euclidean sequences and the Deluge at the moment does not have those things, they are coming soon to the Deluge. So if you want to generate music using Euclidean sequences, both devices are interesting options. All in all, I want to say that both devices are fantastic sequencers with a lot of power, and I don't plan to sell my Deluge now I have the pyramid. I think I even want to connect them together, because I see that both of these devices have each their different strengths, and they can be really supplementary to each other as well. Okay, that was my review. So my general conclusion is that both devices are really cool, and you can do lots of interesting things with them. And now for some generative music coming from the pyramid. Expect to hear more pyramid music soon on this channel.